We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, talking to Toon with me and Sid, and it is a pre-recorded show, so unfortunately we can't have a bit crack with you in the chat tonight, but please chat amongst yourselves. Good evening, Sid, how are you?
Very good, mate, good to see everybody. Hello everybody out there watching.
Yep, great to see Newcastle United return back to form the weekend. I'm joking. You've got to laugh. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry. But fatigue, tiredness, those were the words that were mentioned on the professionals on Sunday and the fans forum on Monday. And the thing that I've pointed out, mate, is really, look, 9 out of 9. 9 wins out of 9. Some wonderful records set. It was going to catch up with us at some point, and we came up against a team that was again firing on all cylinders. And yes, they've got an injury crisis. Bournemouth, they're struggling for players, but they hadn't gone 10 games unbeaten. Because of a fluke. They're a decent team, and it was coming, I think, after Wolves, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I start off with Wolves, I thought we played all right. We weren't amazing. I thought there were some very good performances. I thought Murphy was magnificent on Wednesday. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Him and Isak were my two. I thought were the two best players in the park on Wednesday. I thought they were absolutely fabulous. Although let's be honest, Wolves could have been 3-3. It really could have been. They look far better than a team who are third or fourth bottom. They look considerably better, and they've got some very, very good players. I thought it was a tight game. And it could have been really, really, they didn't deserve a point maybe, but it could have been 3-2, for example. I think we just edged it, so 3-0 really flattered us. And so you could argue that the writing was almost on the wall at that point with regards to we needed to change things up, because I thought we played all right. We played well enough to win, but just on Wednesday and then Saturday, within the first minute, there was a sense of this isn't going to end well. You know, we just kept giving the ball away. We were very sloppy. They were pressing really, really hard. They were fantastic. So not taking anything away from them. And I'm not going to give it the whole, oh, they were brilliant and we were rubbish. It was just I think they forced the situation to make us play poorly. And there's, you know, there are certain things we would maybe have done about it, but not an awful lot. I think maybe we ran out of steam a little bit as well. But remember, putting it into context, as you say, they were missing 11 players.
Yeah.
And a guy who would not normally start for them scored a hat-trick. And just to put it out there, because somebody gave misinformation there, somebody was giving it the whole, he scored more goals at St. James's Park than his dad. That's not true. Because his dad, if we remember rightly, scored a hat-trick for Barcelona against us at St. James's Park and got a standing ovation as he walked off, which people often forget.
Good point.
That was the best hat-trick I'd seen against Newcastle, was his dad's. It was fabulous. But anyway, the young lad did marvellous. He was, you know, he took all his goals superbly and I thought was outstanding. And he's the type of guy you'd love to have as a second striker at the club. Offers something totally different to Isaac. And would also, he's got that classic sort of Mucha Fowler sort of type of player where he looks like he's sort of in and around the box and inside. And he's attacking the lines of the players. This ball's coming over. Thought very clever player. Very impressed by him. The whole team was just better than ours. And you just sometimes have to hold your hand up and say, we got outplayed, and we lost to the better team. Yes, tiredness is clearly a factor. But then I think they've also played 7 games in 3 days. And 3 games in 7 days, and the same as us. So, you know, they might have had an extra day's rest. That might have had something to do with it. I think, you know, it's hard to discount that. But they were just very, very good. I think their manager's top draw. I think he did a job on us. And I'll be amazed, and I hope this is not to come across rude, but I'll be amazed if he's still there next year.
I mean, a lot of people tipping him to go to Spurs. I think it was also interesting that when Eddie was on his sabbatical, I think he went out and watched how he trained and how he coached. So Eddie,
is that right?
Eddie clearly holds him in high esteem as well.
Yeah, he's a top manager. I mean, he'd be mad to go to Spurs, in my opinion. Same.
Anybody going to Spurs would be mad.
Well, I think the Man United job will be up as well at the end of the season. You know, so
maybe up next week after that press conference.
That conference is appallingly bad, wasn't it? Could you imagine being one of them players? My God. I mean, bearing in mind it's all the sad loss of Dennis Law. It's all come to the fore this week, hasn't it? When he sent Man United down in '74, and so you've got all that coming out, and you're seeing this is the worst team that they've ever had. You think, well, '74 must have been pretty bad, but yeah, they just got outplayed. They were just so much better than us. Semenyo absolutely murdered Livramento. I mean, our fullbacks were absolutely done like kippers. It's the first time I've seen Hall have an absolute shocker this year. I mean, he's been our player of the season so far, him and Dan Burn, and both of them had appalling games. The fullbacks were terrible. The whole of the defence was awful. Can I just say, though, I thought Dubravka was my man of the match.
Him and Tonali for me.
I thought he pulled off 3 or 4 absolutely top draw saves, and we could have been absolutely thumped 7 or 8 if he hadn't pulled those saves off. I mean, one of them was outrageous. It was such a good save. I thought he was great. I thought Tonali was magnificent. I agree with the Geordie journos. I thought Joe Linton had a decent second half, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I thought he played quite well in the second half. But generally, the team was awful. From top to bottom, I mean, the wingers were non-existent, both of them. You know, and they're entitled to an off game. They've had 9 great games. You're not going to hear me slaughter any of the team. It's just one of them things, you know, they've just had off days. That's just the way it is. You know, if we go on another winning streak, you ain't going to, you know, so be it. Fair dues. It happens. It happens in football. 1 in 10. I'll take a 1 in 10 defeat ratio all day long, you know. If you can go on another run, 5 or 6 wins, tell you what, if we win the next 9, we've won the League Cup. So I'd take that quite comfortably. Well, you know, I'd take that very happily. So I cannot complain. They were just outstanding. There's little gripes. Obviously, I thought the referee was appalling. First half, I thought there were 4 yellow cards within about 15 minutes for their team. And it came out, I think, in the press conference that one of the players came out and was open. I think it was quite open, weren't they, in terms of saying that they were pushing it a little bit, and the referee didn't do anything. So, you know, it's up to the referee to lay the law down and basically put the markers out, and he didn't do it. I thought he was very, very poor, unfortunately to the detriment of us. But do I think it would have made any difference? No. Even when we got the 1-1, I thought, you know, we were lucky. And then obviously Bruno gave the ball away, and then they went up and scored. Yeah, we didn't deserve now, and that's that. You just have to hold your hands up sometimes and accept that you got beat by the better team.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was down to tactics. I mean, you know, I've never seen a team, you know, get into Newcastle as well as Bournemouth did. The high press, they beat us at our own game. You know and like you say, the referee probably didn't help with his decisions, but you know that the high press was good. And I remember at half time, you know, 2-1 down, I said, Bournemouth can't keep this up. It's a phenomenal work rate, and they just kind of keep it up. But credit to them, you know, that they actually did. And from start to finish, that's all they did. And you know, that was something which I just didn't expect, and clearly Newcastle did it. And I guess again, it was that kind of slight reality check. You know, that the squad just, you know, at Newcastle United isn't big enough. You know, when you have an injury to a key player, a key squad player like Harvey Barnes, who ultimately could have come on and changed something, could have been a dynamic change to the squad. You could have given us a different option. You know, we were left fumbling around looking at what we could have brought on. There was nobody there on that bench that could have really changed the game. Miggy's seen better days. You know, Lewis Miley is, you know, is he the answer? You know, was he really the answer? Kieran Trippier, of course, came on. He brings experience, and but again, you know, he's not as quick as he used to be. So, you know, you were literally, you know, fumbling around in the dark for a torch with after a power cut, weren't you? You know, it was just a nightmare. Really, it was a nightmare situation for us. We didn't have anybody on the bench really who could change the game.
I made a comment to the lad next to us that it was a really weak bench, and we need to have another formation where we can change the game if we need to. What there is, that's up to Eddie Howe to sort of discover. Really, it's not me, you know. But he needs to have some alternative. However, has he got the personnel there to be able to do that? Is the big question. He's been hampered for a number of transfer windows now, so the you know, I mean, yes, player sales will happen by the looks of it. But we need reinforcements quite dramatically just to refresh, and you know, just to refresh the squad, to create a different sort of feel within the squad, but also to be able to change games. You could argue we need a game changer. So someone like, I mean, I'll throw a name out there, Cherky, who's plays, I think he plays for Lyon. He's a sort of Ben Arthur type of player, somebody who's going to do something unusual, bit of a maverick, can win games. You know, I'm not. You know, we could do with a player like that on the bench who can come on and do something really unusual and open up defenses and have an end product as well. We don't have that sort of player at the moment. We've got lots of workman-like players, quick players. I mean, Isak's like that. Obviously, as a centre forward, he can open up and do things, but nobody else can. And we don't really have players who go past players with skill. It's all about pace, isn't it? So I'd like to see something a little bit different within the squad, within the first team and the subs, if you like, the 7 or 8 subs that we've got. It needs to change. We need 2 or 3 players brought in. It's not going to happen this window. Let's be honest about it. I think all these people thinking that we're going to suddenly rush out and get 3 players, I'll be absolutely stunned and amazed. I'd be amazed if we get more than 1. I'd be amazed if we get 1, if I'm being honest. I don't think we're going to get anybody. And it'll all be about the summer.
I mean, the players that have been linked with the exit door, you know, let's start with Miggy Almiron first. You know, I mean, £10 million for Miggy, is that a good deal?
Well, it's not as good as the deal we could have got for him last year, but yeah, I would certainly take it.
Yeah.
You know, his time's done. You know, he offers no end product. You know, fair dues, the lads worked really hard. He had a purple patch, but the fact that last year Murphy outdid him in all of the metrics, and I think he had more assists. Murphy had more assists last year than Miggy's whole career at the club.
Yeah,
that tells me all I need to know. That's not including this year. So there's no place for Miggy, to me. You know, I think the others mentioned. You've got Target didn't make the bench.
Yeah.
Now he's a funny one because you've got to put him alongside Kelly, don't you? Because Kelly's the other one. I don't think you can sell both. Otherwise, you have to buy a replacement.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Unless you switch Kieran Trippier to the left, or you've got Dan Burn and play left back, but he's not a good left back, let's be honest now. So, and Trippier's slow. So it's a real odd one. And Target's not exactly like flipping speed merchant, but he can play the position. So for me, you need to keep one of them. You need to keep one of them. It sounds like Kelly might well go, which was a bit of a surprise to me. But and then obviously you've got Sean Longstaff, who I don't think will go. I think he'll be more of a summer thing, But yeah, we need sales. We need sales, and for me, I'd love to see us bring in one player who can play the right-sided and also double up as an attacker. I mean, if Kelly goes, ironically, I think, let's say 20 million. I don't see it happening, but let's say we'll get 20 million for him. I think because we didn't buy him for anything, in terms of PSR, it works out that you can spend £100 million, don't you? You can spend 20 million over the 5 years as a contract. So you can technically spend that much. Somebody feel free to correct me if I'm talking rubbish. I think that's the case though. So you could go out and buy a top player, maybe it's two, but I just don't see it personally. I just don't see it. I'd like to see it, but I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly's a strange one. Do you get the feeling that we brought him in to actually compete with Botman and Byrne and Shaw? Or do you think he was brought in as part of the, looking ahead to PSR? Because obviously he's on a decent wage, but we got him in on a free. Selling him in a window of 13, 14, 15 million, whatever you got from Juve, is profit. So, do you think this was a PSR move? Just your opinion.
No, I don't. I think he was definitely brought in to. I thought they were maybe thinking he was going to start the season, and he didn't really. And he had a bad game. He's had a couple of bad games, but then he's played a couple of good games. He was great against Chelsea, and he did all right when he came against the Arsenal. What he's got that the others haven't got is sheer pace. He's by far quicker than any of our defence by a country mile. So he's definitely got that going for him. But he's not had a run of games. And it's like any player, you need a run of games before you kick into form. And so I do feel sorry for the lad. I do feel sorry for him because people can harp on it as much as they like. Botman, great player and all the rest of it, but he's got no pace. And he was. I thought he was awful on Saturday before he went off. And there's just nobody with any sort of proper speed in that defence. Livermento's quite quick, and that's probably it. Hall's average pace, isn't he? He got slaughtered the other day with it up against a proper speed man. But he's been great, so everyone's entitled to a bad game. But we haven't got proper pace there, and he's the only one with pace. For me, if Botman plays, and he could do that John Terry thing because he wasn't blessed with pace. You need a speed merchant next to him. Would it have been Kelly? Although Kelly's plays on the same side, I don't know. Or do you start Kelly and another player? So it's that's up to Eddie. He makes he makes the big decisions. I just find it a strange decision, and the fact that the Bournemouth fans were all bigging him up, and they're not stupid, and they were saying that they thought he was good enough to play for England. So he can't be a mug. And I think he was valued at 25 to 30 million a year before he went on a free transfer. So he must be a reasonable player, as a centre-half. He's looked good when he's came to St James's Park in the past. So I'm just surprised. I suspect, I have a feeling he may well go. I think he might well go in this window. So I don't think that makes us short in terms of players because we've got enough there in terms of the centre-half positions, But I mean, Kraft can play there as well, of course. But it's just a strange one. It's a very strange one. I feel sorry for the lad. I do. I feel sorry for him. I think he's had a harsh treatment. And you go on Twitter, and it's just awful. All these people coming up saying, "Oh, get rid of the lad. He's rubbish. He's this, that." He's not rubbish. He's clearly a good player who needs a run of games, in my opinion. And as I say, I'm more inclined to listen to the Bournemouth fans who've watched him for the last 4 years and rave about him. So.
I'm going to ask you a question. Did you leave early?
No, I don't ever leave early. The only time I've left early in the past is when I've been ill.
What did you make of the amount of people who left? Because I've made a my point quite clear on this podcast already over the last couple of days. But I've seen a bit of fallout as usual on various social medias. But I mean, I would have said about 75% of the ground had gone before the end of the game.
No, I didn't think it was anywhere near that. It's just from where I sit, maybe. So I didn't think it was anywhere near that. I mean, what was noticeable where I sit in the East Stand, it was all the oldies got up and walked out. So it was noticeable. Still, the young'uns tended to stay back, and a few of the people sitting near me.
I wish I took a photograph because I sit in the Milburn stand, and by the time it came to the players coming round and doing the usual lap of honour or dishonour as it was on Saturday, I made me and the people I go to the match with, we made a point of staying there and applauding. But I mean,
yeah, well, I did. I walked down to the bottom of the
lots of people weren't there. Like,
they've had 9 great games, and you just thank them for all of that effort. And I thought I made a point of going down the front, give them a round. Well, where I sit anyway.
Yeah.
A round of applause before I left, and I thought, you do that anyway generally. But they've had such a good run. You want to sort of back them and show them that you're still behind them. It's just a one-off game. Disappointed with those people who leave. I don't. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of people who turn up near me every now and again for a match, like who don't normally have tickets, and I find it hard to understand that you spent a lot of money to buy a ticket, and then you get there and then you leave early. And I just think, wow, I can't understand it. As I say, there are times I've left in the past, I've been ill, is generally the case. I've been ill, I've been ill and I've had to go home. But generally, it's like, yeah, you just have to suffer it, don't you? That's all the point of being a Newcastle United fan. I've just suck it up and flip and sit there, and that's just the way it works. I mean, dear me, I remember sitting there at the Liverpool game. We've got tongued 6-0 or whatever it was of Sam Allardyce when Sam Allardyce was manager, and that was probably the worst performance I've ever seen to him. You just sit there and take it. You just have to.
Yeah, so. There's not a great deal he can do, but yeah, I was interested in what your opinion was.
And I can't comprehend it, I think is the phrase. I just can't quite understand. Everyone's entitled to do what they want because you paid the money to go, so it's just your opinion. I don't like booing. That to me stinks, but that's another issue. But and there was the odd person, I just think, you want to just shake your head at them. You think, what are you doing? What are you doing? They've won 9 off the trot, and you got the odd person who's booing. You think, are you for real? But I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It was just a little bit of a surprise to see a lot of the older guys just literally get up and walk out on the 3rd goal. Yeah, I was thinking, all right then. That was a bit strange. Well, it's up to them. It's not my choice.
Yeah. The Bruno links resurfaced again this week with Manchester City. Right. Yeah, I mean, they're talking, as if, again, the Isaac chat has died down a little bit from Arsenal. So now it's back with the Manchester City situation. And of course, Manchester City's, hearing results we're expecting to come from, maybe February onwards, supposed to hear some kind of results. And Haaland, of course, offered a 9.5-year contract and signed him. It's strange, isn't it? And since we last spoke as well, that the PSR announcements, from the Premier League, nobody has breached the rules. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it? I've seen a bit of chatter amongst Newcastle fans this week where people say we should do what Nottingham Forest did. Breach the rules. Take the points deduction and reap the benefits. You know what I mean? What do you feel about it when you see people, going on like that?
I can understand it absolutely, but they've written the rules basically to try and hamper us. So is my impression, and I get the impression that we would get absolutely hammered. I think we'd get absolutely hammered. There wouldn't be, you've behaved well like Everton and will reduce your reduction. I think they'd absolutely take us to town. I really do. I think they'd take us to town. I can absolutely understand why they do it. Absolutely understand why they do it. The PSR rules are an absolute joke. And it's noticeable that it's only City spending money this window. It's only City spending money. And they're going to know soon that they're damaging their own product unless they loosen the strings of clubs to be able to go and buy. I appreciate that other leagues cannot pay the wages that the Premier League pays. But in the long term, if it persists in 10 years' time, for example, it will have seriously hampered because others will catch up. So they need to do something about it. It's all short-sighted thinking at the moment. As I say, I've always said this. I don't want Newcastle just to go out and buy the title. I don't like that sort of thing. And City look like they're just going to go out and spend loads and loads of money. However they got the money, they're going to go out and spend loads of money this window. They're just going to go out and spend. I mean, they've just agreed 70 million for some guy at Frankfurt. They've just, they're spending money left, right, and centre. They bought the defender that we were looking at for 40 million, and they're just going to go for it big time. Now, whether they get a transfer embargo or whether they get relegated or whatever it might be, I have no idea. We're just all speculating in terms of what's going to happen. I don't see them getting relegated. I suspect they'll get away with most of, not get away. I think it'll not be proven in terms of what's happened with regards to them, So, but that's just me speculating, isn't it?
I think they've had a heads up. I think they know what they're going to get, or roughly know what they're going to get. And I think they understand that they're not going to be severely punished, but I think it'll be 20 points. I think it'll be something along those lines, and I think that takes them out of league title and Champions League contention. And I think you're right, maybe a transfer embargo, but a lot depends on what they've been found guilty of, if they get found guilty of anything. But what they get found guilty of, and if they do get found guilty, then I think that's why they're doing what they're doing. I think you're right, and I think it is damage. It's almost damage limitation. The 9.5 year deal for Haaland. Removing all, get out clauses as well was interesting because.
Oh, is that what they've done?
Yeah, they've removed all of those, all of those kind of clauses that you would have in a contract, and Haaland would ask him to have in a contract. So if the worst happened, then people can't just go and pick them off. You know what I mean? They have to get the money that they deserve. So it's interesting. What, like Mitch and Stu said on Sunday, was it'll be interesting now to see whether they start offering contracts to other players like that. If other players have contracts renegotiated and, end up with similar time lengths on the contracts, he says that might tell you that they have had a heads up as to what they're going to get or what's happening. So we're going to find out sooner rather than later. February was the month that we were going to find out. So it will be interesting how it affects Man City. But maybe Man City are going to do a Forest. Maybe they're just saying, well,
they've got the money to spend. So, I mean, they've hardly spent anything in the last few windows, to be fair to them. They've not spent an awful lot of money, and the amount of revenue they make compared to others is nuts. As I said, last time when I was in New York, they've got a massive department store there just on one of the main areas as well, one of the real exclusive areas. And it was busy when I went past it. So they're doing very, very well financially. They're absolutely raking it in, as much as it sickens me. But, so they can go and spend it. Unfortunately, it's just I'm concerned about Newcastle United, and it's us being hampered to have an equal opportunity. Same with Villa, same with Everton, and same with all of those other clubs. Let's be honest, Everton were a bigger club than Man City before they were bought out. So were us, so were Villa. And it's all it's if you look at history, but at the minute we're all being hampered by some of the rules that are out there. But my other point that I want to ask is, what is going on at Newcastle, and what's going on with bringing income in? What's going on? Are we going to wait until we get this big announcement for the ground and all of a sudden tons of sponsorship comes in? Or are they going to buy a couple of players in the last couple of days of the window, and we're all thinking, where's all that money come from? And as if by magic, all these sponsorship deals get announced in sort of mid-February. Yeah. I don't see it. I'd love it to happen. Maybe that's just me being a little bit cynical, but questions asked, I think, is the phrase. We need to start getting some answers. We need to start seeing some more money coming into the club. I mean, the finance expert reckons we're making the same amount of money this year as we made last year, so we're not progressing. Because if you remember rightly, I think they said they wanted to add 50% or something every year in terms of profit, and I'm not sure that's going to happen this year. So
no, I think you're right. I think we're waiting for a new stadium. I think, again, it's something that Mitch mentioned, that the Saudis won't want to, or sponsors won't want to come in and sponsor an old stadium, especially with a new one on the horizon. You would have thought maybe, though, if it's going to take 3 years to build a stadium, that it could take 3 to 5 years. Who knows?
Yes,
Depends who's building it. But
depends where it's at.
And depends where it's at, yeah. And I think, they could have gone for a short-term sponsor, a 3-year sponsor, and then brought in somebody. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people say Paul Mitchell's under pressure, but I think Peter Silverstone's under pressure as well, because he's the man who's been given the opportunity.
Under pressure at all. You don't bring in the top man that we all wanted as the director of football. We all wanted him. I see him under no pressure at all. But Silverstone has to be under pressure. He has to be under pressure, But we'll see. We shall see very soon.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Contact them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or email www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges, all excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. Their website is media-arts.co.uk. And we're also available as a podcast. You can find us on Sports Social, Podcast Network, iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up that likes each video, and click share to share to your social media. Some Newcastle United events coming up. An evening with the entertainers, 24th of January 2025. Box office number is 0191 243 1171. Or website, Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. An evening with Lee Clark takes place on the 31st of January at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are available on Voucher or from newcastlelegends.com. An afternoon with Celeste Ferdinand takes place on the 6th of April 2025, 12 p.m. till 4 p.m, and that's at the O2 City Hall in Newcastle. Tickets from www.ticketmaster.co.uk or from Voucher. And did you get a book voucher for Christmas? Then why not buy The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy by Will Scott. Priced $18.99. Also available from newcastlelegends.com. And it's welcome to Rock and Rob from Kingston Town. As a bit of a giveaway, I think, to what album he's going to be reviewing today. But what album is he not reviewing? Well, it's Back in Your Own Backyard by Brian Smith, which, certainly alternative. He's put a lot of thought into his album cover. That's all I'll say on that one. Yeah. Welcome, Rob. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm glad I made it on time. I was running a little bit late. I thought there was a rat in my kitchen.
Oh.
And I just want to ask whether you've seen the stuff that I've sent you on WhatsApp, Rob, because Sid's I think he's proven that he was actually a proper singer, not a club singer.
Yeah, I know. That's really, really good. And I am going to put Sid on the spot now if I can review it in 2 weeks' time. Give it a good listen to it. Yeah, I would like to do that. Yeah,
go for it.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's it. Brilliant.
Great.
So yeah,
Over to you then. What have they brought us today?
Well, this was a request, and it's also for James and Rachel as well. It's their favourite album. It's UB40, Labour of Love, album from 1983. Again, the great cover to this album, it's a collage of all the songs on the album. There's 4 singles on it. This is a 4th studio album. I wasn't sure of that. But Red, Red Wine, Please Don't Make Me Cry, Many Rivers to Cross, and Cherry O Baby. Really good. UB40, unemployment benefit 40, and that's obviously how we got the name from Birmingham. So starts with Cherry O Baby. It's beautifully arranged song. It's sort of one of those songs to sort of reflect, ponder on, listen to the lyrics. It's a timeless classic, this one. Sets the scene for the album. It's quite a really good chilled opener. Going into Keep On Moving. Again, good cover version. Good tempo, nice tune again. I think this is Ali Campbell at his best. I think this was originally done by the Impressions. I think there was a few covers on this song. But again, the vocal delivery is brilliant. I'm not sure if he's still with the band or it's his brother now. I know there was some sort of rift. You got Please Don't Make Me Cry. That's what would happen if my friend bought me a Cure ticket. So yeah, this reminds me of this is as soon as I listen to this, it reminds me of being brutally bullied at high school by punks, mods, and skinheads because I was different, underground alternative at the time. This song sort of triggered that. So yeah, strangely enough, it could be one of UB40's best songs. I mean, I do love the offbeat on this one as well. So I like randomly after every 8 sections, it's really good. So it stands out for me. You got Sweet Sensation, sort of that nice electronic drum opener, the 80s, that hexagonal drums. I think this would have been a great single. It would have been perfect for opening the album. Again, so a good song about reminiscing. You got Johnny Too Bad, reminded me straight away of Aswad, which is not a bad thing. Good refreshing song, up tempo, really good song. It's Astral. Is it Astro? It's no longer with us. Yeah. Brilliant. It just adds something, a dynamic and more of a depth. A bit like NWA when you hear, like Ice Cube or MC Ren changing it. Changes the outlook on the band for me, actually. If you turn it over, put side B on, you've got Red, Red Wine. This was track number 3 on Now That's What I Call Music 1, which was, again, in 1983. Again, it's just consistent. I like the bass and drums on this. Just carry it nicely for me.
It's the old Neil Diamond song as well, which people didn't realise.
Yeah, that's right. Again, it hasn't aged, this song. It's like the video to it as well. All the videos were good on this. You've got Guilty. Nice saxophone opening on this one again, with sort of nice, nifty, sharp guitar parts on this one. It's nice sort of like words spoken. It reminds me of Barry White. Just how he delivered that again. This is Astro again. Just how he comes across. It's really good again. It just changes the dynamic of this great band. You've got She Caught the Train. The intro to this one sort of made me feel more like a hip hop sort of break dance at that time. That sort of sound, again, sung, delivered with soul. Great cover again. It was Ray Martel, 1970. What an outstanding year 1970 was. And great year I was born. Then you've got track 4 on side B is Version Girl opening. Reminding me of Pass the Dutchie again. I think that was on Now 2 or something. But, that happens. When you listen to things, it takes you back to what was happening at the time, especially, the UB40 of the 80s. And there was a lot of darkness around in the UK at the time. But, it's a good one. It's really, really good song. Astro, again, shines on this song for me. You've got the final song, Many Rivers to Cross. Again, great opening. It's a very gospel influenced. Sort of like I forgot about this song, and obviously hearing it again, I do like the reverb and a wee bit echo on Ali Campbell's vocals. Great song to close the album with. There was also I was watching the videos as well to get a bit of a feel for it. There was a 30-minute film, sort of mini film that went with this album. It was called Labour of Love as well, I think. But that's that for me. It's going to get an 8 out of 8.5 for me. Really, really good song. And before I go, can I ask people to hit the thumbs up for me? I just like that. I just like to see how well we're doing. You hear people saying smash the likes. There isn't a like button. It's a thumbs up. Press the thumbs up. And yeah, if we get over 100, I'll review Sid's album next week.
Great stuff, as always, from you, Rob. What have you brought us today?
Yeah, it's a good album. Can I just say, signing off, their debut album was one of the greatest debut albums of all time. And it is so sad the way that the brothers don't talk to each other. It's really, really sad. Two separate bands now. Bearing in mind, they were a gang when they started off as a band, and two of them are dead now. You know, I just find it so sad. I think it's a really tragic story, actually, of a band. You know, yeah, never mind. It's really just sad. I've gone with, for me, a pioneering album that came out in 1978, and it's The Man Machine by Kraftwerk, or Kraftwerk, whichever way you want to say it.
Yeah.
I got into it in the German version, Die Mensch Machine, which is just magnificent. I prefer it in German, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they were at the forefront of the what was called the Kraftwerk movement. So you have them, Neu, Harmonium, Tangerine Dream, Kahn, and so on and so forth. Loads of others. Just a great band. They're so influential. I mean, they were massive. They were right at the forefront of the new romantic movement. They influenced punk rock as well. Bands like Buzzcocks are clearly influenced by them in terms of sort of the sort of the drum beat thing that went on. Them and Kahn in particular. Public Image were massively influenced by Kahn, for example. The album has influences of the Cold War and what was going on in West Germany at the time in terms of the partition. Mankind's symbolic relationship with machines is basically the key theme of the album. And I love the fact that they sort of look like robots, and they used to have robots on stage, and that's very, very clever. Very, very clever. And so, of course, it's very prominent now with the whole AI thing. You know, you can see Kraftwerk really, if they wanted, taking that to another level, if they really ever fancied it. The album came out in 78, and it was a flop. It wasn't a hit at all. It really didn't sell much at all. And it was 1982 when it really took off as an album. It really started to sell then, and I'll go into that in a reason why. It got a top 10, actually. The Robots is the first single on the album. It's about subservient robots. The whole album's got just classic rhythms. It's a great late-night album, a sort of groove album, or driving in the car album, just real sort of chill album. But the opening's brilliant. Classic rhythms, very, very catchy. Read the whole album, pardon the pun, yeah, because it's very futuristic. It's got tons of space on it, you know. Space Lab is the next track. It's almost a template for bands like Air that would come along in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s. It's definitely got that feel to it. It's got electronic voicing on and the use of a phaser, so it's very sort of odd and ambient and weird, but brilliant. We've got a song called Metropolis, where it just literally repeats the word Metropolis about 15 times. It's about 5 minutes long, and that's it, but it's just fabulous. Again, this album's all about the groove. And there's a reason why these are one of the most sampled bands of all times. When you go and listen to it, you can hear where certain songs have been sampled. Certainly on the album afterwards, the Autobahn album, not Autobahn, Trans-Euro Express album afterwards. We've then got side 2, where the reason why this was a hit in 82 is because the song The Model was a #1 hit in the UK in 1982, and it is sublime. Very, very catchy, great song. Almost metallic in terms of the cold vocals. But it's beautiful. Yeah, it's cold, yet has a sense of soul. It's weird. It's beautiful. We've got Neon Lights, is 9 minutes long, but magic. And then the last song, The Man Machine, again, repetitive but brilliant. And there's a reason why this album comes in the top 60 NME albums of all time. I just think it's splendid. It's a top 5-star album all day for me. Brilliant album, love it. So there we go. Kraftwerk, Man Machine. Go and get it in German. It's even better. Film, I've gone with. I thought I'd keep the robot theme running, so I've gone with Blade Runner. Again, like Kraftwerk, initially this was a flop. It didn't do well in the cinema. Made by our very local Ridley Scott. from South Shields. Now, a true story here. My great-grandfather used to work for Ridley Scott's family at Tyneside Cinema and used to be the projectionist there. Previously worked for Stan Laurel's dad, bizarrely, but that's another story. There are amazingly 7 different versions of this film.
Yeah.
It's just, it's mind-numbing. All I can say is go and watch the ultimate cut, which apparently the director's cut is not strictly just the director. There were other outside forces. So the ultimate cut is the one to watch because it's literally the director's cut properly. It's brilliant. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's bonkers. But it's 2019, set in LA. It's got a detective called Rick Deckard, detained by, I'm just reading off the notes here off the online, Officer Gaff, who likes to make origami figures and is brought to his former supervisor, Bryant Deckard. Deckard, whose job as a Blade Runner was to track down bioengineered humanoids known as replicants and terminate them. So that's basically the whole story. There's loads to it. It's very clever. There's huge twists in the story. The casting is brilliant. Harrison Ford is magnificent in the role. Now, interestingly, there were a number of different choices here. The film was actually written. The story was based on the book Do Androids Dream of Sheep, something like that. But it was the play for the film was written with Robert Mitchum in mind, and he wasn't interested. And then they were hawking it out to others like Connery, Peter Falk. Can you imagine that? Columbo being in the role. Just one more thing. You know, it's just bizarre, bonkers. Paul Newman, but Harrison Ford is perfectly cast. I think, honestly, there's such a vast array of different actors, but he got it almost as like 4th choice. But obviously, it's worked out absolutely brilliantly. But it's a great film. It's dark. It's sort of got that neo-noir style to it. Some people call it cyberpunk as well. It's an absolute classic film. If you like your science fiction, you've probably already seen it. But if you haven't, go out and check it out because it's brilliant.
Great stuff. My album challenge continues, lads. And those of you who follow us on social media will already know what I've listened to. But for the viewers out there who don't, this was one of the first ones this week. Tres Hombre, ZZ Top.
Love it.
Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, brilliant track. And Masters of Sparks, which is 2 of my favourites on that particular album. I am a ZZ Top fan, I've got to be perfectly honest. And yeah, that one was an easy listen for me. Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill, was my next album. And Do It Again, of course, Dirty Work, and love Reeling in the Years as well. It's certainly an album that I will revisit. And I just remember, I think back in the day, my dad playing a bit of Steely Dan, so I think that that is probably why that one was an easy listen. Then we've got this one, a bit of alternative poetry with John Cooper Clarke. Disguise in Love was the album, and I've got to be honest, I do like John Cooper Clarke, and I've had the delight of meeting him at a festival once and spending a bit of time with him. But
he's a genius as a poet.
Some classics on here: Teenage Werewolf, Reader's Wives, and Salome Maloney, which is simply brilliant. If you've never listened to that and you're thinking, "Oh God, what the hell's Steve on?" Honestly, well worth a listen. Give it a go. I found an album that Sid hasn't listened to, so he might have to visit this one. Chris de Burgh's Spanish Train and Other Stories. Now, Spanish Train is, funnily enough, is a song which influenced me and my performing arts group to write a play based on that. And it's a great track, that in itself. But there is some classics on here. Spaceman Came Traveling is on there. Patricia the Stripper is another classic. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it. And as Andy Leslie on one of my posts on social media says, and at least it doesn't have Lady in Red on there. He's clearly not a Christopher Lady in Red fan. Sid recommended this one this week. This is my album of the week. I love this. The Cult Choice of Weapon was brilliant. Standout tracks for me were The Wolf, Life, Death, and Lucifer, but I wouldn't say there was a bad track on the album. Well worth a listen. Definitely another one to listen to again. Alison Stanley suggested this one. Never ever heard of these people. Never heard of the Interrupters. You can tell, I guess, by the way that they're dressed. It's a bit of ska. They're described as alternative, I think, when you're looking on Apple Music, which is how I'm listening to my albums. But Fight the Good Fight is the album, and standout tracks were She's Kerosene, great little song, that Leap of Faith, and Gave You Everything. Something a bit different there. And again, that's the beauty of doing an album challenge. You're listening to something different every day. Never listen to this either. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Catch a Fire, another one of Sid's recommendations. And standout tracks, of course, Stir It Up. Everyone will have heard that. Kinky Reggae, I really like that song. Never heard it before. And No More Trouble were the standouts for me on that particular album. But great stuff. The challenge continues. And if I've seen a few people now going, I'm going to give that a listen. I might do what you're doing. So it's good. It's good that we're influencing people that getting into some different music. So great stuff. Thank you for everybody for the recommendations. That's it. Rob, what else do you want to say?
I just want to give a recommendation to both of you. I mean, Sid, definitely early first generation goth influenced by Kraftwerk. A band called Dance Society. Dance, DANSE, Society, album called Heaven is Waiting. Even if you listen to the song Heaven is Waiting, massively influenced. This was 81, 83, it was brilliant. Just a recommendation.
Send us a link, Rob. Send us a link.
Link over and I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Rob. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, bro.
Yeah, look after yourself.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, time to look ahead to the weekend's game. Thankfully, no midweek fixture. Newcastle United next in Premier League action on Saturday when they visit Premier League basement side Southampton. It's a good old-fashioned 3:00 start at St Mary's Stadium, and all 3,000 away section tickets have been sold. This will be Newcastle's first visit since the away section was relocated from the north end, which is the Northam stand, to the southwest Chapel Kingsland corner. That alteration isn't particularly on the match tickets. Following victories at Ipswich, Manchester United and Spurs, 3 points here would see Newcastle win 4 consecutive away games in the Premier League for the first time since October 1996 under Kevin Keegan. That 12-point return came at Sunderland 2-1, Spurs 2-1, Leeds 1-0 and Derby County 1-0. A 2-0 reverse at Leicester City then prevented Kevin Keegan's side from matching the 5-game run that they had recorded in October 1994. But Eddie doesn't like to talk about records. The Magpies did also win 4 consecutive championship games on the road in 2016. Going one better during May 2010.
I think the Leicester City game came after the 5-0, didn't it?
I think it did, yeah. I think you're right, yeah. Bit early for team news as we are pre-recording this on Monday to go out on Tuesday night. Tyler Diblin, Newcastle United, of course, supposed to be looking at him as a potential signing. Has got an ankle problem, which joining Ross Stewart and Jack Stevens on the injured list. Cabaret performer, as NUFC.com describes him, and inept striker Ben Brayton Diaz has rejoined Sheffield United on loan. As they continue to say on there, what was the worst piece of play acting at St James's Park since Stephen Taylor was enough to see Fabian Shaw dismissed in the last meeting of these two sides. Some stats. Well, Southampton are the lowest goal scorers in the Premier League, 15 goals, the highest conceding 50 goals this season. And Southampton have won just one of their 22 Premier League games so far this season, a 1-0 home victory over Everton back in November. That's also the only clean sheet in 10 home fixtures, losing 8 and drawn 1-1 with Ipswich. They faced Newcastle on the back of 5 Premier League losses since a 0-0 draw at Fulham in December. Their other point secured was a 1-1 draw at Brighton in November. Former Newcastle striker Adam Armstrong is Southampton's joint Premier League top scorer to date with 2 goals, one of which came from the penalty spot. And fellow at St James's Park old boy Ryan Fraser hasn't played since Ivan Jurek was appointed manager last month, although he doesn't appear to be injured. Referee and VAR officials weren't confirmed as we made this programme. So we will just get Sid's views on the game ahead. The stats all point to a Newcastle win, but we know what stats are.
Yes, it's been nothing.
How are you feeling about this at the weekend?
It's a funny one, isn't it? It's a really odd one. I think it all comes down to the first goal. If we score early, I see nothing but us absolutely thrashing them. However, if they score, I can see it being really, really tight. It really is a strange, of all the games, this is one of the hardest ones to sort of gauge in terms of the score. I think if we'd won the last game, I'd have said nothing but an absolute tonking was on the cards. But you've got to wonder how their confidence is affected. Hopefully not at all. You know, the lads, I'm hoping Eddie Howe gives them 2 or 3 days rest, proper rest, and then get them back into training again. I'm sure he will. And so it depends on, will there be any changes? I suspect he won't put any changes. I think it'll be the same team as the last time to start. I mean, let's be honest, pound for pound, we're a much better team. We're a much, much better team. All the figures and the points table tell you. The points table tell you that these might be the worst Premier League team of all time. I mean, there's a chance these are going to overtake Derby and having the lowest point score. Yeah. There's no doubt they're going to go down. I think their best player is Tyler Diblin, and he's not going to play, which is good news for us. Yeah. Hopefully the lad comes back quickly. So I don't know. I'm torn between, is it going to be 1-1, 2-1, or is it going to be 8-1? You know, it's like it's that extreme. It's a strange. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going 7-1. So I'll go with the optimism. Go 7-1.
7-1.
Providing they don't score first. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. They're rubbish. They're absolutely rubbish. Bizarrely, if people remember though, up till the last game against Bournemouth, they were possibly the best team we played at St James's Park. Yeah, they were really, really good and deserved at least a point out of the game, but they had nothing up front, and that's their problem. If they could score goals, they would probably be, you know, bottom 6, but they wouldn't probably be in the bottom 3. But they haven't got a goal scorer. You know, they haven't got a goal scorer. So
great stuff. I love your optimism, Sid. Great show as always. Thanks to you. Thanks to Rob as well for his contribution. Always a good show. Always nice to break it up with a bit of music. I'll crack on with my music challenge. I might even give Sid's album a listen this week as part of the challenge.
We're a good time rhythm and blues band. I'm just putting it out there. That's what we were. Long
good
time
ago. I'm looking forward to listening to it. But have a great week, mate. And I will be back Wednesday night with Ben Jacobs in the transfer show, if he's available. He is a busy guy. If not, we will have some replacement show in. Gibbo is live with me on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And then we'll have the Amigos on Friday. Time to be confirmed. I'm quite busy on Friday with the Entertainers events. We'll have to work that out. Okay, take care, everybody. Good night.
Take care, folks. Bye-bye.